One more thing I want to talk about, because I think a lot of martial artists and people in general have this problem, is that my hip flexors are very strong. Too strong in comparison to the rest of my, abdominal muscles. Particularly the, rectus abdominis, like the six pack. And, once one muscle is way stronger than the other, it just wants to get recruited. It's like, yeah, I got this. And those little, weaker muscles just are like, all right, man, go for it. And they fall asleep on you and get weaker and weaker. Get strained if they do come into recruitment. They get strained because they're not used to working. Stuff like that. And, yeah, man. So I'm going to work on my rectus abdominis a lot more. My transverse abdominis, obliques, all that stuff. And to do that, man, I'm just going back to the most basic of basics, which is crunches. Crunches with my knees up, and probably like resting my feet on a chair or something to kind of get the hip flexors out of the equation and just focus on, that rectus abdominis. It might twist a little bit every now and then to get some oblique action in there, but yeah, I think once those are stronger, because look, what does the rectus abdominis do? What is its function, right? Three functions: flexion, the lumbar spine, posterior pelvic tilt, and then weak lateral flexion, right? And right now my posture is anterior pelvic tilt, so I get that like duck butt, you know what I'm saying? Where my hips are kind of tilted back or whatever, and my lumbar spine is kind of like cramped up chronically. So if I strengthen that rectus abdominis, which, its function is to basically do the opposite of those things I have right now, which is extended lumbars and anterior pelvic tilt. If I can strengthen those a lot and kind of, ease up on the hip flexion work, I'll be able to kind of, over time, correct my posture, because those muscles get stronger and they'll eventually kind of like pull me back into a better alignment where my ass isn't sticking out and all that. So the other thing I'm going to work on to help fix my anterior pelvic tilt is going to be just glute work. Because your glutes are also, what do? They posteriorly tilt the pelvis. So if I'm exercising those, like, a hip thrust, stuff like that, I'm going to eventually, over time, kind of crank myself back into a better posture. And, working the glutes, doing like a hip thrust, for example, that stretches, the hip flexors, so that'll be good too. It'll, two birds, one stone right there. So we'll see how that goes. Again, gotta work on those weaknesses. Can't be working on strengths all the time. I think a lot of martial artists, especially those who fight, think, oh yeah, I've got a really great, right roundhouse, and they have full confidence in it, and they become reliant on it, and they're like, yeah, I'm gonna win this fight with like a right roundhouse or whatever it is, and they never use that left leg because they're like, whatever, I've got my one reliable weapon, I'm gonna use it. And then over time, and they're like, oh, my back hurts, oh, my hip hurts, oh, my knee hurts, my ankle hurts, whatever the hell. And it's like, look, man, because you're not balanced. You're a one-dimensional fighter, and yeah, it's not good for longevity. I'm not even a fighter, so I have no excuse. So anyway, that is my message for the day: strengthen your weaknesses. And even Bruce Lee had a fucked up back.